Welcome to Konoha Crush, a secret mission to discuss happenings in and around the village hidden in the leaves. I'm Glenn.
And I'm Ruby.
Ruby,
Yeah.
what's been going on?
I've been hanging out. I've been watching anime. I've been gaming as I do, as is my want.
Yeah, me too, pretty much. I'm coming up on the end of a first watch through of Revolutionary Girl Utena.
Oh, nice. It's a great show.
Yeah, it's exciting. I'll probably have more things to say about it next week after I actually finish the show. Just giving you all a fair warning.
Next week, Gwen's gonna blow everybody's minds with a hot new revolutionary take on the classic anime Utena. It's going to completely restructure everything you thought you knew about it, and I hope you're looking forward to it.
Mm-hmm. Look, all I'm going to say is, you know how Utena pulls a sword out of Anthy's chest?
Yeah, I know about that.
What if it means something?
That's a lot to take in. Generally, I watch a bunch of stuff, seasonally a lot of the time. I don't think I'm going to talk about everything that I watch, but I did want to talk about one of the shows I'm watching this season, which is Ranking of Kings, or Osama Ranking. Gwen, have you seen any of that?
I love Ranking of Kings.
It's a good show, right? It's fucking great.
It's really good.
Yeah. No, I guess the thing that I wanted to talk about with it that I was finding really striking is that there's in a lot of action and adventure anime, you've got the sense of here's the protagonist who is who can't do the things that other people can do, and I think a lot of the time there are ways to read that tie back to thoughts about disability, even if that's not necessarily the intent of the original work.
Right.
And in Ranking of Kings, there's there's a very clear through line there in the sense that the main character of that, Prince Boji, is he is hard of hearing and he communicates nonverbally, and also on another level to that, he's physically not as strong as people expect somebody in his position should be. He's not able to pick up a big sword and swing it super hard and break a bunch of shit with a big sword.
Yeah.
And so something that I think is really compelling about it and about the way it approaches this is he can't do all of those things, but he is he's great at dodging. He can move really fast. He can avoid getting hit, and he can sneak in attacks on the side, right? And I think as somebody who watches a lot of anime, there's a sense of oh, this is a type of cool guy that exists in anime that a lot of viewers are acclimated to accept, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what the show does that's so smart is even though he's found these ways to do things and be good at things, there is this immediate response of well, that's wrong. You need to do this the right way that we all do this. That it immediately pushes that to the side as an invalid way of doing things, in spite of that being the only method available to him in some ways.
I think the scene that really encapsulates this is part where he's having a duel with his younger brother.
Yeah, for sure.
And he is embarrassing his brother because his brother can't land a hit.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of being cheered on oh yeah, you're doing it, everyone is just what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah, oh, this isn't a kingly way to fight. This is bullshit.
Yeah.
And I think it's such a smart way of depicting there are people with disabilities there are ways to engage in the world, and there are ways to work with what you can do that there are ways to that they have to engage with the world that are often because they need a little more accommodation, or because they are not what is immediately recognized as the acceptable way to do things, are seen as invalid and looked down upon. And I think that having these two layers to that character's character story does a really good job of bringing an audience who is perhaps a little less acclimated to thinking about disability into that mindset, and into understanding the level on which that is ableism is a societal problem. I just think it's really smart.
Yeah, and even beyond all that, it's a fucking beautiful show.
It is unbelievably gorgeous. Every background on that show is just a beautiful painting, extremely striking locations. I think the art director on that is Yuji Kaneko, and is great. The designs are really simple and appealing, and that lends to this huge degree of movement, and it's just really Like it is just a delight to watch every week, and I'm hoping that keeps up.
Me too. So, Ruby, you wanted to talk about better explaining what's up with the podcast?
Yeah. I mean, I believe last time we talked about this as like a Naruto rewatch podcast, and that is true. But specifically, I think this is a complete Naruto rewatch podcast in the sense that we are going to watch every episode of the original anime and Naruto Shippuden. We are taking these as like, we are engaging with the whole text. We are treating the anime as the primary text in ways, because I think there's a lot of interesting stuff that is done through by the various creative voices on the anime that the manga by Masashi Kishimoto is like that is a good way to experience the story. I like the manga too, but I think there's more to dig into with the anime. And also I'm curious to see what what there is to dig into with a lot of the stuff that sort of gets left by the wayside, because I've seen every episode of this show before. And I know that like a lot of people have their skip lists that they, try to incorporate like the good filler in, or like their edits that remove that, add the stuff that like keep in the stuff that they think is additive to the story, but like cut everything else out. And like I just don't think that there's any one of those that doesn't somehow like leave out something that I think is interesting and like worth engaging with and worth discussing. And I think this is like a way I am interested in engaging with the text of Naruto.
Yeah, the biggest reason we didn't explain this last week is because last week was a fucking mess.
It was a mess. We came in, we wanted to talk about Naruto and Fortnite, and then we forgot to say what the podcast was. And, we did our best with what we knew about how to record a podcast, and I think we've hopefully learned a little more this time.
Okay, so with that, I think it's time to get into the episodes, starting us off with episode 4. In episode 4, so at the start, the squad are left waiting for their Jonin, and have a little argument about a prank. The Jonin arrives, his name is Kakashi, and he gets chalk dust on his head, and lets them know that the first impression is a bad one.
He's like, I hate you kids. Hey, you talked about the prank, and so Naruto is like putting a chalkboard eraser up in the door so that when Kakashi opens it, it's gonna fall on his head, and we talked very briefly about inner Sakura in the previous episode. I called it a doomed gimmick, but I didn't really say anything about what specifically it was and what it represents for that character. And here we get a sense of Sakura, when she sees Naruto doing the prank, outwardly she's like, oh, you shouldn't do a prank, that's bad. But inwardly she's like, I love pranks, I think pranks are awesome. And so obviously it's there to present this idea of Sakura as a person who is working to fit within the social expectations of her, and to be very well behaved and successful. But she's got a rowdy side that she's suppressing. And I think something I'm going to be very curious to pay attention to is on this rewatch is if that is if that's anything, if that goes anywhere at all.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see if that goes anywhere at all.
Because I could see an argument, and I don't know that it's a convincing one, but an argument that, when she learns to punch stuff, that's her letting this out in an acceptable way. But I don't think, I don't know if that's something that the show is really going to engage with on any real level.
Yeah, that sounds like something Naruto could have done.
It does. There's lots of things that Naruto could have done.
So Kakashi takes the kids outside and has them do a little icebreaker. Kakashi introduces himself first, without going into any detail whatsoever. Naruto mostly just talks about ramen and wanting to be the Hokage. Sakura blushes a lot about Sasuke, and turns around to say she hates Naruto. And then Sasuke lets everyone know that he wants to kill a man.
It's so good. When Sasuke's turn, it immediately feels like this kid has been waiting for somebody to ask him this question his whole life. He's got this whole speech prepared. He's like, oh, I don't have a dream. I have an ambition to kill a man.
I want to point out the dub's very funny use of the word destroy here.
Yes, you can't say kill on television for children. I also like when Sasuke is when Sasuke does this, I need to kill a man. Naruto's like, oh shit, that's not me, is it? I think that's just a funny joke.
It is a funny joke.
And I also like how this scene is it's a really it's a pretty clean distillation of the way that all of these kids have these really myopic visions of their own selves and their own goals. Like Sasuke's thing really does seem rehearsed, and Naruto is just like, yeah, here's a thing I like, and Sakura has basically nothing to say about herself, and so there's a sense of, these kids don't really get what they're about, and they don't really get what the other people in their squad are about because they're kids, and they're being trained as child soldiers, and they haven't had a chance to think about much of any of that.
No, they haven't. So Kakashi tells them about a survival exercise that's going to act as a test to see if they're really suited to be ninja, and he stresses that it's so intense they should skip breakfast or risk throwing up.
This is also the scene where Kakashi is like, only, of the 27 graduates, only 9 of you will get to actually like move on to be ninjas, right?
Yeah.
So this is something I started thinking about through these episodes, which is I'm curious about what the structure of the Ninja Academy is, because there's a line in the first episode about how Naruto has been held back twice, but he's also like the same age as, Sakura and Sasuke, who I don't think we have any reason to believe have been held back at all. And so I'm curious if there's just like a lot of like really fast attempts at getting these kids to graduate, and then like getting them through these like initial exercises with a like Jonin teacher. What the structure of it is there, or if that's even something that's like been considered.
Yeah, because if you're to believe that these children started at the same time, or like the same age, then that means Naruto is 2 years older than the other two.
And like he's not. Like that's just not what the official answer for like what his age is in relation to the other kids.
Right. So I guess the only explanation there is then is that you can just start whenever you feel like you're ready. I
mean, like it is that, or it is what I was saying. It's like, we just like, we just try to shuffle out graduation tests like every month or so, and then yeah, I don't know, because like every other kid that graduates at the same time is also the same age, so there's no real disparity in the like age ranges there. And this also like, and this is a lot of me just getting in my own head and trying to like figure stuff out that like I don't know that the show is really interested in answering. But I was wondering if that is the case, is there then like a rush to, we need to keep pushing these kids to like get past this point, and if they don't pass a certain age, we just give up on them. Like, is there a cutoff point where they're just going to stop trying with these kids?
Yeah, I don't know. And this is getting way ahead of myself here, but there is like a kid in Boruto who is much older than all the other students.
Yeah, no, there's Iwabe, who is like specifically a character who has been held back a bunch and is older than like his classmates. But maybe the academy's been reformed since then. I don't know. These are not I don't think these are questions that the show has answers for. But like maybe if I pay really close attention this time, I'll find them.
Yeah, right. Like nobody gives a shit. It was just like the 2 years held back thing is just a one-off line to show that like Naruto isn't very good at being a ninja school, right? And like we're thinking about it way more than anybody who has ever put it to paper has.
Yeah, but I also am very curious in like what the Ninja Academy is like, and if it's really even any good at teaching anybody, because I sort of suspect that it's not, regardless of what the intent of like how they try to depict it and like what they try to communicate with it is.
Well, I think this episode is a little bit about that, or at least not necessarily about that, but like this episode and the next one will answer that question to some degree.
Mm-hmm.
At sunrise, Team 7 arrives at the woods and waits for Kakashi. Kakashi arrives a little before noon and tells him their task is to retrieve 2 bells that he will keep on his person. And at noon, everyone without a bell will not only fail the test, but be tied down and forced to watch as everyone else eats their lunch.
I guess like I'll just say like I think this is a pretty fun setup, right? Like I think that if you know about what stories are, it's pretty obvious that it's like, oh, he's like setting them against each other, but maybe there's a secret purpose. But I don't know. I just think it's like, yeah, this is just like a really solid mechanism to like get these characters like interacting with each other, and
yeah, and I also really like the hunger setup, so it's like don't eat breakfast or you might throw up, but also arrive at sunrise, and then he shows up at about noon.
Yeah.
Something that happens in this segment also is Naruto gets mad at Kakashi and runs at him with a knife, like before the time starts. It's another really good use of the word destroy.
You've got to come out with the intent to destroy me.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was the moment where I realized that this is an episode that's like pretty conservative with the amount of like animation resources it has to work with, because there are like less drawings in the scene where Kakashi grabs and redirects the knife towards the back of Naruto's neck than in the anime than there are in the manga. So this is just the realities of like a long running shonen anime production like this. But there's gonna be some times where the show is just a little stiff and a little limited in what it can do, and that's fine. But this specific moment really struck me.
After Kakashi says go and everyone jumps away to do their own thing, everyone's hidden. Kakashi compliments their subtlety when Naruto confronts him head on. As Iruka learns from the third Hokage that Kakashi has failed every single student with his strict tests, Kakashi shows off by reading a book while Naruto fights, but Naruto catches him off guard with his shadow clones, only for Kakashi to slip away, leaving Naruto beat up and embarrassed after some infighting with his clones.
I mean, you say Kakashi's reading a book. What we need to mention is that specifically Kakashi is reading like a really horny book. He's reading some fucking porn while he's like fighting this child.
Yeah.
This is one of the famous jokes of Kakashi, is that he likes to read his horny novels.
Mm-hmm. This is also when Kakashi does the poke.
That's the other famous joke of Kakashi.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, if you watched the episode, if you watched along with us, then you know what we're talking about. If you didn't, you probably remember.
If you still don't know, you're probably fine.
Yeah, it's okay. Don't worry about it. I don't want to talk about it.
It seems like you don't want to talk about it, Glenn.
It's just one of those things. It's like a little bit yucky.
Yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah, this is also when we learn about substitution jutsu.
Mm-hmm.
Because Naruto had him grabbed up with a bunch of clones, but Kakashi used his substitution jutsu to swap places with one of the clones to make Naruto believe that he had in fact used a transformation jutsu and was hiding among the clones.
That is specifically after Naruto gets thrown into the water and then crawls back up
after the poke.
Yeah. And I do think it's a pretty fun moment to just have Naruto. He gets the drop on Kakashi. Even if Kakashi gets out of it easily, he's still surprised by it. And Sakura and Sasuke are all, maybe he's better than I thought. And I think it's just a fun little win for Naruto to have. It feels good to see the kid succeed even a little bit, even if it's immediately devolves into another comedy beat where Naruto is trying to beat up his own clones.
Eventually, one of them comes up with the bright idea. We know it's not the main one, because he has to tell the main one to dispel the clones. Kakashi's gone, but Naruto notices a little bell that Kakashi must have dropped at the base of a tree, and, falling for an obvious trap, he ends up hanging from the ankles as Kakashi reappears to scold him. Sasuke spots an opportunity to attack, and the episode ends as Kakashi is pelted with knives.
The fakest cliffhanger in the world.
Okay. Another dub thing. Kakashi makes the funniest sound in the world when he's hit by the knives.
Okay, do I need to pull this up?
You need to pull this up.
He finally dropped his guard. Won't you ever
learn? He does. That's a pretty funny sound that he makes there. Are you gonna put that in the episode?
I'm probably gonna put that in the episode, yeah.
Yeah, but it is really something that they I mean, maybe they clearly don't expect that much investment. This is a cliffhanger because the next episode preview shows that Kakashi is perfectly alive. But the fact that they think even for a second after we just learned about substitution jutsu that we're gonna buy that Kakashi has just been killed haphazardly by shuriken is pretty funny to me.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure even in the little animation, explaining substitution, the example they use is having shuriken thrown at you.
This is just an end of a page beat in the manga, but they really try to end an episode off on it, and it just comes across as very silly.
It's really good. This is also a good time to point out for the dub voices and everything.
Mm-hmm.
I think Kakashi's is really good.
Huh. I think Kakashi is really good in the sub. Also, I really like Kazuhiko Inoue's performance as Kakashi. He's just a delight to listen to.
Yeah, hold on. Let me look up who's Kakashi in the.
I'm gonna feel really embarrassed if I got that wrong because I didn't look that up. I just went from memory. So if Kakashi isn't voiced by Kazuhiko Inoue, then I guess you can nail me to the stake or whatever.
It is. In English, Dave Wittenberg.
Dave Wittenberg. If you're listening, shoutouts to you.
Hey, shoutouts to Dave. Who else has Dave been? Oh, he was the Joker in Lego Batman movie.
That's great.
Okay, so in episode 5, We open up with that last scene again, except we see Kakashi use the substitution jutsu to turn into a log instead of a dead body, and Sasuke realizes he gave away his position and moves to avoid being found. Sakura chases after him, not wanting to be separated from Sasuke, but ultimately loses him before being confronted by Kakashi, while Naruto cuts himself free, only to land on his second rope trap.
Getting into this episode, I do want to do a quick shout out to a staff member on it. One of the key animators is Nozomu Abe, who these days he's known as the action director for Madoka. He has big climactic scenes on basically every modern Ufotable project. He's got big minute-long scenes in all the Heaven's Feel movies. He does a bunch of the big moments from the Demon Slayer show and also the big climactic cut of the movie. He's all over their work, and here early on in his career, he's a pretty regular on Naruto. And I don't know specifically what part of this episode is his work, but I do want to just shout that out, and it's just something I'm going to be paying attention to going forward.
Nice.
And I also think that not just because of that, right? But I think this episode in general is coming to this episode from the previous one. It was oh, the show is moving again. There's movement in the show again.
Yeah, and even the previous batch of episodes is oh, this can be a cool show in a way the first three didn't touch on at all.
Mm-hmm. I still think that first episode is pretty good, but Naruto is really taking shape here at this point, I think.
Kakashi uses genjutsu on Sakura, making her faint after seeing a knifed-up Sasuke begging for help. Sasuke hears the scream as Kakashi lands behind him. We get a quick explanation of genjutsu before Sasuke rushes Kakashi. Sasuke demonstrates how strong a fighter he is, almost getting his hands on the belt, forcing Kakashi to take him seriously.
So things I want to talk about, when Sakura sees the knifed-up Sasuke, there's a zoom in on her eye, and there's this really intricate cut of the tear welling up in her eye, and before it spills over, and it is the single most intricate piece of animation in this episode. It's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, well, that's really... It's, kind of intense.
Yeah, it's very striking. And the other thing I want to talk about with this is that when Sakura's, reacting, Kakashi's did I go too far? And evidently somebody on the anime staff thought that Masashi Kishimoto had gone too far, because in the anime, Sasuke is, missing an arm and one of his legs is twisted around backwards.
Yeah?
Yeah. Yeah, and then again, when Sasuke is attacking Kakashi, there's just a lot more motion in the action in this episode. There's some kind of awkward cuts to here's the panels from the manga where it stops for a bit, but there's some pretty solid movement in each each leg between that, and there's just a lot more attention to detail in the action animation in this episode.
Yeah. Also, something I want to point out. In the scene when Kakashi appears behind Sasuke, I love how it's a close-up of Kakashi's hips, or I guess hip, since he's in sideways profile, and just the bells falling to settle and making a sound.
Mm-hmm.
That's really, I thought that was really cool, of a kind of a low animation way to show that he just got there really fast.
Yeah, for sure. This is nowhere near the peak of how animated an episode of Naruto can get, but there's a lot of really smart work done with what they have.
Yeah, and it's and we also get that explanation of genjutsu at first, and we don't realize at first that Kakashi is just talking to Sasuke about it, explaining the scream so Sasuke doesn't worry too much.
He's don't worry, she's not dead or anything. She's got all of her blood in her. She just thinks you don't.
Yeah, and I really like the part where Sasuke is just built different.
He is just built different. I also have it in my notes. Sasuke is a bit of a note about Sasuke saying that he's built different. He would never fall for a genjutsu.
Yeah, and I really like how just showing because Sasuke's and Naruto's confronting Kakashi are basically back to back. They're across an episode border, but that doesn't mean anything.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a really slick way to show the differences in their potency and style.
Mm-hmm.
From the jump, Sasuke has a trap set, and he actually gets into a hand-to-hand altercation with Kakashi that Kakashi has to actually try hard to get out of, in a way that just wasn't the case with Naruto.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's you immediately see oh yeah, Sasuke is the he's the top of his class. He's way better than everybody else here, and you do immediately buy that, and you also get this that he still can't really hold a candle to Kakashi, but he can at least not immediately get owned.
Yeah, right. Obviously Kakashi is miles above, not even in the same ballpark as these literal children, but it's I can't just not pay attention with you.
Mm-hmm.
Sakura wakes up and goes to look for Sasuke, still believing him to be injured somewhere, while Kakashi and Sasuke continue to fight. Naruto spots where Kakashi left the bento for the two winners and recalls Kakashi's advice on an obvious deception. Sasuke impresses Kakashi with a fireball jutsu and earns an earnest attempt at subdual with an earth-style jutsu that leaves Sasuke buried in the ground up to his chin.
And, I gotta say, who's not impressed with this fireball is me. I think it looks like dog shit. It is just like the worst, muddiest digital fire effect, and the actual like outline of the fireball outside of that fire effect is like really transparent and kind of hard to see. I am not on the whole opposed to the movement to like digital composition and production pipelines accommodating that in anime. I think there's a lot of I think that ultimately it has allowed for a lot of like new like forms of like expression and animation that I generally find really exciting and compelling, and like there will be an opportunity to talk about that in this very podcast eventually. But like there is definitely a time, especially early on in that transitory period, where like I know that some people will say that animation got worse after this, and I don't think that is the case, but I think that there are definitely some times where with these like relatively newer toolkits that there's a sense where the presentation of animation gets a little bit worse. But also I mean these kinds of bad digital effects overlaid over effects animation are actually not, they're still present. So, and I hate it every time, and I hate it here. It is especially bad here. It is not a good looking fireball.
But it used so much chakra. A kid couldn't do that.
Like it is like especially disappointing because I think the fireball panel in the manga looks pretty sick.
Oh yeah, that's a shame.
Yeah. And it is just like a completely impactless moment because of the way this fire is rendered in this show.
Convinced the answer to this exercise is to steal lunch instead of a bell, Naruto goes for the bento, only to be interrupted by Kakashi. Sakura finds a buried Sasuke and faints again, believing him to be a disembodied head, and by the time Sakura wakes up, it's almost noon, and Sasuke intends to go fight Kakashi again, but spends too much time telling off Sakura for wanting to fall back and just try again next year, when they're more experienced.
Yeah, I actually like, I really like this moment where, Sasuke is was talking to Sakura. That's one of the only times I'm going to say this on this podcast. But like in this specific moment, I think it's because when they're introducing themselves to each other, he has this thing that he's like really confident about saying. And the instant he is, he's like confronted with the fact that he's not as close to where he needs to be as he wants to be, and like is being like asked to talk about what his deal is in more detail beyond this sort of like rehearsed response. He just doesn't really know what to say. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's just kind of stumbling over his words and like taking these long pauses in the middle of a sentence. And I think it's really characterful.
Yeah, I mean, you can only spend half your life rehearsing one phrase.
Yeah.
So it's like, you're going to have to elaborate.
That's why there's a time skip later on, so everybody can get another phrase.
And you know what? I'm gonna say it. I think Naruto exercised some really good problem solving skills here.
Yeah.
Kakashi didn't say you couldn't just eat. I think Kakashi's being a bad DM here. I think he's like, no, it has to be the solution I thought of. Won't let his fucking players come up with good solutions on their own. Kakashi's just fucking railroading him.
I hate to play Kakashi's campaign.
At least it lets him get the whole fucking teamwork speech off.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of which, Team 7 sits dejected and hungry, anticipating a scolding. Kakashi explains that they won't be heading to the academy, and they celebrate too soon, before Kakashi explains that they are being kicked out of the ninja program entirely. Meanwhile, the third Hokage tells Iruka that Kakashi has good judgment, and that he was right to fail the children he did. Kakashi says that the kids misunderstood the whole intent of the exercise, and details how each of them failed to demonstrate any amount of teamwork. Not through their whole time in the academy did anybody explain to any of these children that, like, it is your job to work as a team.
I mean, maybe it came up. Like, I think the idea is definitely that Kakashi was like deliberately trying to, make them to avoid working as a team. But also, yeah, I don't know. Like, that probably is something that would have been drilled. Like, if the education was sufficient, probably would have been drilled into them like more concretely than
Yeah, right, like, it would have been obvious from the 2-bell thing, like, oh yeah, one of us is supposed to put, like, the team's needs ahead of their own. Kakashi shows them a stone monument with the name of heroes etched into it on every side. Naruto declares that his name will be on the stone someday, before Kakashi explains that it is a memorial carved with the names of ninja who have been killed in action. Kakashi declares that he'll give them one more chance, and that the test afternoon will be much more challenging, so they should eat. Except Naruto, of course, who cheated by trying to eat by himself.
Okay, I was going to say, I think it's very funny that Kakashi took a bunch of children out to go get their asses kicked in front of, like, a memorial for, like, dead soldiers.
But, I mean, it's Kakashi's job to take the kids that aren't taking it seriously.
Mm-hmm. And, like, send them back to school.
Yeah. So, like, it makes sense that he would have that there as a prop to scold them.
Uh-huh. I like that because there's like a big statue of the most awesome cool guys in the village. Naruto's just like, oh, obviously all like rocks with names or like depictions of people on them must be for awesome cool guys. So I better be at all of the rocks.
Also, can we talk about the location of this like memorial?
Yeah, what do you have to say about it?
Just like in the woods somewhere. You know what? I'm gonna say something.
Mm-hmm.
I think Kakashi had that put there.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Like it's not even real?
It's real. Like it actually has the names of all of his fallen comrades or whatever.
Uh-huh.
And stuff, but like, I think he was like, yeah, I'm gonna put this out in the woods so that when I'm training snot-nosed brats, I can point to it and say, those people fucking died and you're not taking this seriously.
Kakashi's like, yeah, can I get like a really fucked up car to show what happens if you drive drunk?
God, it is the ninja equivalent of showing like fucking a VHS of car crashes in driving class.
Yeah.
With Kakashi out of sight, Sasuke offers Naruto some of his food. Sakura tells him off, thinking Kakashi must be watching them, but Sasuke is sure he isn't, and is convinced that in order to pass, the three of them need to be in top shape. This includes Naruto. Sakura agrees and offers to feed Naruto. As soon as Naruto takes a bite, Kakashi appears from a cloud of smoke. He yells and conjures a storm cloud to up the drama of their scolding, before calmly letting them know that they passed their second test. Everyone walks out pleased with themselves, except Naruto, of course, who they left tied to the stump.
I think I want to talk about here is it is Sasuke's idea to offer food to Naruto. Naruto specifically only thanks Sakura, which I guess is maybe on some level stands like they are on some level trying to point towards a love triangle here that just basically doesn't exist after a certain point. But also I think it's a very funny petty thing where Naruto's like, I'm only going to thank the person I like, even though it wasn't her idea, even though she wanted to not do it.
Do you think Sasuke was being, like, genuine when he said that he needs Naruto to be strong, or did he think that was the test?
I mean, like, I think that Sasuke has on some level, like, an amount of faith in Naruto's abilities and bets that, you know, if he was able to be a little better directed in what he was doing, you know, maybe something could happen and it would be better to have Naruto and his army of Narutos than to not.
But also, Sasuke, I think, could have just figured out the test.
That's also a possibility.
So it's really hard to say. I mean, like, it's probably both to an extent.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, he probably felt safe suggesting it because of the whole, like, teamwork speech.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is, like, a pretty obvious test, I suppose.
Mm-hmm. And I didn't mention this in the, like, written recap part, but I like that Kakashi, like, made them speak up for themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's like it's a pretty. So I believe in the manga it just goes straight to Kakashi saying that they passed without like expanding on it. I think that's a pretty smart way to expand the scene. Yeah, it's like a nice moment of like, hey, did you actually understand, or are you just doing the shit I said to do?
Yeah, or even did you forget?
A way that this scene is sort of expanded that I like a lot less is that in the manga it just kind of leaves it at, oh, you know, they're the three of them going to split two lunchboxes three ways. But in the anime it makes this whole ordeal of like, oh, Sakura is just going to eat less because she's a girl and she's on a diet and she's going to offer up her food, and that's the way it should be. It's just like, it just sucks.
It does just suck. They did like diet stuff earlier too, right? When they first met up, like Sakura was like, oh, and I'm extra hungry because I didn't eat a very big dinner last night because I'm on a diet.
Yeah.
And it's just like,
It was like, I guess this is like the girl character trait you could give when you have no interest in writing women.
Yeah, and it's fucked up because like, Sakura, honey, you're a shinobi, you're an athlete, you need to be like, you gotta grow up big and strong. You're like 12.
She is like 12. The other thing I want to say is that is Kakashi's got his whole like final like summation point to this, where he's like, those who break rules and codes are branded as garbage, but those who don't cherish their friends are garbage worse than that. And every time I see this line, it gets to me because there's a movie we're gonna watch further down the line that's basically just about how much everybody loves saying that because of Kakashi.
Woohoo! God, Kakashi is the coolest guy in Naruto.
Kakashi's pretty cool. I'm enjoying Kakashi this time.
I'm trying to think of a cooler guy in Naruto than Kakashi.
He's up there.
The only one who comes close is Kakashi's best friend, Guy Sensei. But he's cool in a very different way.
I'm curious about that because I remember being like a bit of a guy hater the last time I watched this, so we'll see how that pans out.
Amazing. Well, also my most recent the most recent thing I've seen with Guy in it was the section in Boruto where it's just Guy and Kakashi hanging out.
Yeah, they're going to the hot springs. That's good stuff.
Yeah,
he's pretty good there. I can't deny that.
Right. So like, you know, maybe it's different then. Maybe he'll grow into like the second most coolest guy.
Yeah, but also maybe I'll just be like I'll just like be able to enjoy Guy as like a character this time around. We'll see. That's like that's a little ways off yet.
Cold open with Team 7 having tactical chatter over the radio, but we soon learn that the target thereafter is a lost cat. After returning the cat, we learn that Genin are only allowed to go on easy missions, like tracking down lost pets or manual labor. Naruto complains that they aren't going on cooler missions and gets told off by Iruka and the third Hokage, but Naruto insists he's not the dumb prankster they all think he is. The Hokage concedes and gives them a routine bodyguard mission and introduces them to the client, a drunk bridge builder who needs protecting on the way back to his homeland.
Okay, so before we get into this, really, I want to talk about the director on this episode. This is actually directed and storyboarded by one of my favorite Naruto directors, Masahiko Murata. I don't know that this is his best episode, but I think we start to see some of his quirks show up here. Masahiko Murata has like a pretty long career. He's got credits and stuff as a key animator dating back to the 80s, but I don't actually know much about what he's worked on outside of Naruto, so I'm going to mostly talk about him in the context of his Naruto work. I think an easy pull for Masahiko Murata is like his most iconic Naruto episode is Gotta See, Gotta Know Kakashi Sensei's True Face. Sort of one of the undisputed classics of Naruto filler, and as you might suspect, he's got kind of a penchant for comedy. There's a lot of moments in this episode where he kind of plays up like the physical comedy in his boards, like when Naruto is like trying to capture the cat and the cat just starts kicking his ass. That's like I assume in his boards. There's other little moments like that throughout, but he's also like pretty capable of like taking on a like more like a grimmer and more dour tone. I think that there's like 3 different times throughout the show where he like does episodes that brush up against Sasuke's backstory, and it's almost always some of the most compelling expressions of that stuff in the show. Beyond that, he directed like 3 of the Shippuden movies, and he is the series director for the Rock Lee spinoff, which I don't know if we're going to be watching for this podcast because it seems like a hard show to podcast about probably. But he directed the first half of that. And then he also was the series director of Naruto Shippuden for the final 7 episodes.
Ooh.
So he's around a bunch, and I think he's got a lot of really interesting work that I'm excited to talk about.
Yeah, I'm excited to see and like get a feel for more of his stuff because like I'm going into this not knowing jack shit about the people that worked on Naruto.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm happy to be able to help change that. The other thing I want to talk about, another thing I want to talk about. This is way less serious, but we have another appearance of the guy who wears the hat and sits next to the third Hokage.
Yes.
He's back again in only one shot, and then the rest of the scene is like shot so that he's off screen. But he's still here. He hasn't been erased from time yet. And also his head is bigger now.
That's so scary.
I'm choosing to believe it's the same guy because that's what I need in my life.
Yeah, it needs to be some guy and not just like a uniform that like secretaries wear.
A uniform with variable hats depending on importance of the secretary. There's like another bit that I think is really funny in this section of the episode where while the third Hokage is explaining the mission structure, like it cuts away to like Naruto just talking about what he wants for lunch, and also everybody else in Team 7 is like ignoring the third Hokage in favor of watching Naruto talk about what he wants for lunch.
This show might be good.
It's just pretty good sometimes.
When they head out, Tazuna, the bridge builder, voices concerns about being sent out with a bunch of genin, but Kakashi reassures him, saying that as a Jonin, he's capable of handling the mission by himself if necessary. As they walk away from the conversation, we see them being watched by 2 mysterious shinobi, notably not from the Hidden Leaf.
Yeah, there's a few cuts leading up to this where like it's just this really striking, like everything is just like everything is seen is just black with like this like really overbearing light washing over it. Where you see this ninja jumping through like over the treetops, and there's like this shot, like this like first person shot of somebody like rushing through the trees really fast as the trees sort of like fade in through the light. It's extremely striking,
and they're cool designs.
These are like some real like A-class jobber designs.
Like, they're actually dressed like ninja.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Naruto's orange. How's he supposed to sneak?
We can't do this.
Later on the road, Kakashi explains that not every land has a ninja, and nations with shinobi villages use them to maintain good relations with surrounding countries. He then goes on to list each of the 5 shinobi villages, each led by their own Kage, but Kakashi tells them not to worry, as there shouldn't be any enemy ninja in a lowly C-class mission. Well, Tazuna listens to this and visibly sweats.
That's fine, probably.
Probably fine. Probably doesn't mean anything.
There's also a bit during here where like Kakashi is like explaining the world building and like Naruto Sakura was like, I think the Hokage is bullshit. He doesn't seem that good. And they're right. That guy is bullshit.
He's old. He already retired, and it's not like Hokage has like a set term, right? Like you stop being the Hokage when it's time to stop being the Hokage.
Mm-hmm.
So like if he's not the coolest, most toughest guy in the world, then like, yeah, he's like 100 years old, okay? Be nice.
Like, I don't know if he's saying he's weak, I just think he's bullshit. I think he's a bullshit man.
Yeah, I mean, like, you're not wrong. He's a little bit bullshit. It's fine. It's okay. It's okay to be bullshit. Unless you're the Hokage, I guess. Fucking double standards over here.
I've always holding Hokage to extremely harsh standards.
A ways down the road again, they're ambushed. One ninja rises out of a pool behind them, and another springs from a tree. Each of them extend a spiked chain from their big clawed gauntlet and tear Kakashi to pieces as the children look on in horror. Pretty obviously Kakashi's okay.
Yeah.
But they play out this Kakashi death for a while, not like the last one.
There's another like really striking shot where the whole screen is washed in red except for the chunks of Kakashi's body flying everywhere as the like chain severs them apart.
Yeah, that would be a much stronger episode end. And this one is just a lowly fucking commercial break.
Can you imagine if the first half of this episode was like 12 minutes of them trying to catch a cat?
12 minutes? That could have been a whole episode.
It could have been. This is like just poor planning on the adaptation's part, I think.
Could have got more of that cool tactical radio chatter about a cat.
You could have had the reveal that it's a cat like 8 minutes into the episode.
God, they could have had like a secret B plot where there's like somebody like hiding from pursuers, but then it turns out that it's like not our friends that's chasing them.
We're really envisioning a world here. I won't say if it's better or worse, but we're envisioning it.
I think it's better because then we get more Naruto episodes.
That's right. We don't have enough. They're not making this shit anymore. We've got some new shit that starts with a B.
They attack Naruto, and he locks up in fear. Sasuke steps in and disarms him of the chain. They split up, one going for Naruto, and the other Tazuna. Sakura steps in between the enemy and Tazuna, and Sasuke steps up to defend her. Kakashi, out of nowhere, clotheslines the guy going for Tazuna with the other one already unconscious tucked under his arm. Kakashi apologizes to Naruto for not stepping in before he got injured, and compliments Sasuke and Sakura's efforts. This was a really fun, like, little, like, first real action sequence.
Yeah, there's some cool stuff where, like, when one of the ninjas is rushing at Naruto, there's, like, some really disorienting editing where it keeps cutting, but like, as the ninja is running, before we get a clear sense of, like, where he's going, like, he's rushing at Naruto just barely shows up in the frame, and it cuts away again, and, like, it sells the idea that, Naruto can't really track what this guy is doing, like, super well.
Yeah, and, like, I especially like that we don't see Naruto get injured.
Mm-hmm.
Unless my anime is broken.
I don't think we do. I think it is like something that is only called attention to after the fact, and Naruto just hasn't even processed that he has a scratch on his hand.
Yeah, and Kakashi's just so fucking cool again.
Kakashi's cool, and the big claw gauntlets that these ninjas have are cool.
Yeah, they're cool, and the little, like, maneuver Sasuke does to pin the chain to the tree is cool.
Yeah. Just the cut where when the chain is like moving fast, it's just this like solid band, and it only becomes distinguishable as the individual shuriken links as it gets pinned to the tree.
God,
like it's brief and to the point, and it's really fun. And I think I'm enjoying Naruto. I think I like Naruto.
Yeah, God damn it.
I mean, I do this about myself, but if this is news for you, then it's probably good for the podcast. But I don't know, it might be personally devastating.
No, it's good for me. It might be bad for the podcast.
Did you want to be a hater?
I want to be a hater a little bit, at least.
I'm sure we'll find the time to be a hater. We've got so much Naruto in our future.
I hope. Naruto has a little crisis about how level-headed Sasuke was in the first ever real fight, and Kakashi warns him not to move around too much on account of the poison in his blood, and that they need to open up the wound to drain out the poison blood. Kakashi ties down the enemy ninja and identifies them as being from the Hidden Mist. Tazuna asked why he left the kids to fight, and Kakashi explains that he needed to know who they were targeting, and confirms they are indeed going for the bridge builder, making this far beyond the scope of a C-rank mission. Can we talk about how, like, Kakashi thinks that to help with poison, you gotta cut the wound open more so you bleed out all the poison.
He's not wrong within the context of the show, is the thing. Like, Naruto does that, and it works, so... Blood's just different.
Does it?
I'm pretty sure.
Does it? Or is Naruto just built different?
He's also built different, but we're meant to believe, I'm pretty sure, that he gets the poison out by putting his blood out of him.
But we can't know until it happens to somebody else.
We need somebody else to get poisoned, so we can understand the world of Naruto better.
Yeah, we need somebody else to get poisoned and then bleed to death, and then a doctor to say, like, I'm sorry, you told them what?
When Tsunade shows up in, like, a bunch of episodes, Naruto's gonna be like, yeah, this one time I was told to let the poison out of me, and she's like, why did somebody tell you to do that? I need to go kill somebody quick.
I need to go beat up Kakashi. I didn't think he'd do it.
Kakashi just has to act like this is how you handle poison for the rest of his life.
Tazuna is in so much trouble. God, can you imagine how he must have felt when, like, he put in the mission request and then he got, like, a training exercise with a bunch of children, and then Kakashi's all like, oh, you don't need to worry, we'll probably won't run into anything. If anything, probably just like a bandit or something. We'll probably just scare him off by just being ninja there.
So they get like 50 feet out of the village, and it's a good thing he got the show to protagonist with him, because in the other circumstance he probably goes to jail and then he gets assassinated in jail. And I don't want that for him. So good on him.
Yeah, right. Because like imagine the world where like it wasn't Naruto who got poisoned and instead fucking Sakura dies from poison.
She would be fine. She just let the poison out with her blood.
Then Kakashi and that man are going to jail.
I think that Sakura would responsibly get enough of her blood out to only take out the poison, and I just don't know why you're acting like this doesn't work.
Okay, we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves because Sakura suggests they should head back to the village and get Naruto to a doctor, but Naruto doesn't want to be treated like a burden, so he draws a knife and stabs himself in the hand to let all the blood out, and declares his conviction to grow stronger. Kakashi compliments the drive, but tells Naruto he should stop bleeding or he might die. So Naruto panics, and Kakashi steps in to inspect the wound, just in time to watch it close by itself with nine-tailed fox chakra. So like we were saying, Naruto's built different, and anybody else would have died to poison and blood loss.
I think that anybody else would have more responsibly stabbed himself in the hand. Like, only done it like a reasonable amount, and it would have been fine. I'm choosing to believe that poison and blood works differently in Naruto.
Blood just moves way slower throughout the body. I mean, maybe that's the first thing they teach you in ninja school.
Is how to get your blood to move different?
Yeah, nobody is allowed to be a ninja if they have a higher than 1 BPM, because then other ninja will hear your heartbeat and come and get your ass.
You might be out to something.
So everyone just teach your hearts to beat real slow.
The other thing is interesting here is that when Naruto is having his little crisis, obviously his feelings of like inadequacy are directed primarily at Sasuke, because that rivalry is the core relationship of the show. But in this moment, at least, like Sakura also gets to be above him, and I'm curious if that survives even this arc.
Even the next episode, I will be surprised.
Well, because I know there's a few moments coming up where Sakura gets to be better at Naruto still. But better at something than Naruto still. But
yeah, I wonder how far they carry that. So, elsewhere, in a dark and misty forest, you see a strange building. Inside, a small man in a suit is hollering at a seated figure, complaining that he paid a lot of money for them to go and fail the mission. The seated figure tells him to shut up, and without standing, extends his fuck-off huge sword, like right to the man's throat, like standing across the room, saying the next time, he'll go and do it himself. The man dissuades him, saying they have a strong ninja, and after the failed attempt, they'll have tightened security. The seated figure scoffs, and asks if the man knows who he is, proclaiming himself Zabuza Momochi, the demon of the hidden mist.
Hell yes.
Fuck yes!
The escalation of villains here is incredible, because we go from Mizuki, who has no presence, to the Demon Brothers, who like aren't a huge deal, but they're like really cool. Then we get to fucking Zabuza, and Zabuza rocks.
Zabuza is so cool.
He's got a big sword. He doesn't get better at having a big sword.
Fuck! I didn't even consider Zabuza for coolest guy in Naruto.
I don't know that Zabuza's coolest guy in Naruto. I think there is there's a school of people who believe this. I don't know if I believe it, but...
No, but he's a contender, like, worth mentioning.
He is very cool.
He's definitely, like, coolest early bad guy of Naruto.
How many people are in that category?
Zabuza.
He is acing it. He's knocking it out of the park with his big sword.
It's the only cool big sword, too.
We can't get too in depth about the big swords. That's getting really far afield, but it is definitely the coolest big sword.
I'm just glad we did it.
We did it?
Yeah, we saw Zabuza.
We saw Zabuza. I'm excited. I really like this arc. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited that Naruto is taking shape. That first episode was kind of rough, but I'm sort of surprised how quickly it starts feeling like the thing I love after like our first podcast episode, to be clear.
Yeah.
But like I'm surprised how quickly it starts like taking shape after that and becomes the thing that I love.
Yeah, this is the real Naruto now.
It just gets there so fast.
We didn't have a stinker this podcast episode. Like, maybe the first one of that little, like, 2-part episode in the beginning is, like, not that great.
I mean, it was sort of like a conservatively, like in terms of, like staff episode. Like, it is just the sort of episode that needs to exist for an anime that's long running to exist.
Right, but it's the first episode in a 2-parter, right? Like, you gotta consider it as one unit, right? In a way that, like, even, you know, later, like, multi-episode arcs, like, obviously, it's a thing, but, like, a 2-parter specifically, you gotta consider each individual episode, like, as part of that unit in a way you don't necessarily have to with, like, a longer arc.
I can subscribe to that metric, I think.
And it's just like, fuck, man. Like, we're in the good Naruto. We're watching Naruto.
We're watching Naruto.
Oh, man. I didn't think we were going to be watching, like, Naruto for a bit with that first podcast episode.
Well, it sneaks up on you.
It sneaks up on you. I don't know how. He's fucking orange.
Are you going to do this every episode?
Probably not every episode.
Okay, that's good. I bet there's some episodes where he doesn't wear orange. Actually, I don't know if there are. That's a bold claim. We'll have to see.
He definitely wears other clothes on extreme occasion. But I don't think we could hit 3 episodes in a row.
We might hit 3 episodes in a row that he's just not in.
Fair.
But he'd still be orange somewhere else.
Also, 3 episodes in a row that line up with our podcast schedule.
I think that's pretty possible.
I'm just saying it's a harder window to hit than 3 episodes in a row in general.
Yeah, do you have anything else we want to say? Are we
I think we're about good. Well, thank you for listening, everybody. That was episode 2 of Konoha Crush. Next week, we will be watching episodes 7, 8, and 9 of Naruto. And that'll be it for now. See you later, and remember, there is no such thing as filler.